We have some real problems in our culture, starting with the fact that we have tried to eliminate almost all texture for young children. They now can take a pouch and squeeze food into their mouth. That's a big deal right now. They're squeezing like applesauce or something into their mouth, requiring no chewing. Well, and we think that it's safe and effective to take pureed food, Gerber consistency soup or oatmeal consistency, and then feed the child that, when in fact that doesn't stimulate any chewing at all. And there's no evidence that if a child's given a cooked vegetable or a raw vegetable that they are going to aspirate it and have a choking episode. Now, what we understand is that, yeah, the first week you give a child at say 2 or something or 3 solid foods or 1.5, whatever it is, they're gonna make a mess and they're gonna be all over the place. But it's only about a week and they figure out how to chew and swallow solid foods, and you can feed them solid foods. There's a book called Baby-Led Weaning that every mother should read, because you're doing your child a disservice by providing them with this semi-liquid diet. Well, here's what happens. The diet, you can have a swallow with teeth together, tongue in the palate. That's a correct swallow. Or you can swallow with your tongue between your teeth. That's kind of a suckling swallow. That's the defect pattern. If you have a sloppy, poor consistency food, the child will revert to a suckling swallow, tongue between teeth, which sets up an improper swallow, which is part of the other reason we have these growth and development problems. That's a big deal. We also make the mistake of wiping the child's cheek, which is a nursing stimulus, which further amplifies or reinforces a suckling swallow, which then sets in motion this defective swallow. So it's really a misnomer culturally about that. And we, of course, have gone to softer and softer foods with require less and less chewing. We get that. We saw that in the Roman culture. The wealthy Romans had access to processed foods. They could have cooked and softened foods. Their faces took on a characteristic shape with a larger humped nose. You can see it in sculpture, that reflected them in a sort of an agricultural diet base with processing of foods. But any of the population groups that have been studied that have a primitive diet with no introduction of soft foods, they maintain the ideal facial form and architecture. It's remarkable. You look at any tribe, this goes all the way back to the early part of the last century, Weston Price. A genius, one of the leading figures in dentistry, but he's ignored. I didn't study him for 1 second in dental school. And he wrote a definitive book on diet and the corruption to the jaws, the teeth, and even decay. Remarkable researcher, traveled the world photographing and documenting his interfacing with these tribal cultures. And so, he found in his practice that even decay as a disease of modern man relates to a dietary deficiency that also affects the face. Remarkable, remarkable finding. He called it Activator X, which was ignored for 70 or 80 years, and only in the last part of the late 1990s, in that time frame, they discovered it was vitamin K2. It had been ignored for decades because K1 was all the focus, as necessary for clotting, very important in that regard. K2 was thought to had no consequence. As it turns out, no, K2 has a major, major player in the body's ability to manage calcium. He discovered that. Activator X later became known to be vitamin K2.